It's absolutely apptacular. The Subject Cinema Android app. Everything you need to be a rabid Subject Cinema fan. Subject Cinema, 3-Minute Weekend, Tuesday Digidex, and Front Row 5 and 10. All right at your fingertips and available instantly. Plus, email and voicemail links, Facebook and Twitter hookups, Patreon support specials, and more is coming real soon. Don't just listen, app it. The all-in-one Subject Cinema podcast app. Android version available now at Google Play or on PNR Network websites. Amazon and iPhone apps coming soon. Don't delay. Download today.
Blueberry. This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
All right. I've gotten all my slamming out of the way. All my practice is done. Slammed a few people on the floor, slammed a few doors, slammed a few drawers.
Is that why there's a pile of broken dishes on the kitchen floor?
No comment. Well, I have to get in shape.
You're cleaning that up.
I have to get in shape.
For what?
SLAMDANCE is our focus on the film festivals this week.
Great. So you broke a bunch of cutlery for a movie festival.
Yeah, well, got to do something. Got to suffer for your art.
We've watched Godfrey Ho movies. Haven't we suffered enough?
I said suffer, not torture. There's a difference. In addition to SLAMDANCE, reviews, one of Kim's classics, A Silver Screen from DC Comics, and Black Panther, and more, all this week, right here, right now. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
Join us because we're headed back.
This week on Subject Cinema.
Stand by to receive our transmission.
This town needs an enema.
Celebrating a decade of film podcasting. Lasting out of Beantown, USA, you're tuned into Subject Cinema with T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown.
Directive.
Oh, behave. Yeah.
I volunteer as tribute.
Suppose you run your business and let me run mine. Here's looking at you, kid.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome T.C. and Kim.
Ready to head out to Utah?
Am I ever?
Oh, that's nice. I'm sure they really appreciate that.
Honey, Utah can't handle all of this.
Oh, well, they handle it every year.
Utah ain't ready for this.
Sure it is. Welcome to Subject Cinema. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
Hi, I'm Kim Brown.
Subject Cinema number 598, day and date, February 18, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
How was your week?
Not bad. You know, just the usual.
It's going to be crazy
stuff.
this week. We had sno overnight. We're going to be in the 70s on Wednesday. It's going to be very weird.
Yeah.
In the middle of February. Of course, it could be 3 years ago.
Yeah.
118 inches of snow in 3 weeks.
It could be 3 years ago when we were hip deep in snow. So, you know, just a little flurry and then...
Deep? Hell, it was twice as high as our heads.
It was awful. It was absolutely terrible.
It was. So this week we got a few reviews, getting back into the normal pattern here after a few weeks of trying to recuperate from sicknesses and stuff. And hopefully, as we head out to Park City, Utah for our second installment of this year's Festival of Film Festivals, it's going to be interesting stuff to look at. I'm going to apologize up front to the filmmakers. I actually had a screener for the opening night film, and because of all the sickness and stuff, we didn't get around to trying to watch it until a few days ago, and our password has expired, and I don't want to bother them again. So we'll let you know what it was, though, and I apologize for not getting it done in time because we really did want to see the film. But anyway, before we get to the reviews and stuff for later and our discussion about other things going on, let's head back out to Park City, Utah and the SLAMDANCE Film Festival on our Festival of Film Festivals. Festival Flash! As we said last week on the show, instead of doing just one big show with the Festival of Film Festivals, we're stretching them out into one or two festivals a week for the next few weeks, and that will link right into our Boston Springs Festival, which is going to be done the same way, just because it keeps us from being too overexhausted with stuff.
Because we also have jobs.
Yes,
so
unfortunately we do. This week we're going to head back out to Park City. Last week we talked about Sundance. Sundance inspired so many different dances in Park City over the years. There were, at one point, 12 different film festivals going on at the same time in Park City. This was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. It is now down to just the two. Sundance, which we talked about last week, and their version of the alternative film festival, the SLAMDANCE Film Festival. SLAMDANCE happens the first weekend of Sundance and always has intriguing films to speak of. Because they don't show that many, we're going to have time to go actually run over most of the titles that they ran at this year's festival. And it should be interesting. The opening night film was a documentary, the one we did not get to see, called Pick of the Litter, and it was following one litter of puppies as they went out into the world as trainees to become guide dogs.
Yep.
Was being touted as a dog version of Keddy, one of last year's biggest documentaries. Unfortunately, as I said, we got so sick that our passwords for the screener expired, and we didn't get a chance to see it. And I'm very angry because I wanted to see it. But hopefully, it will go nationally before too long, and it may show up at Salem. We never know. We'll know the Salem Film Fest list this coming week and what we're going to be seeing up there. So hopefully it'll be fun to do. Going to run over the narrative features simply in the order that they were actually first announced in Variety back in November of last year. And hopefully you'll be able to keep up because I know you're not looking at the same list.
No.
First up, dances. No, excuse me. No, not dances. Birds Without Feathers, written and directed by Wendy McCallum. Desperate for human interaction, 6 emotionally damaged individuals risk self-respect, shedding their disillusionment in a last grasp for happiness. A cruel world comedy populated by struggling Instagram stars, Russian cowboys, self-help gurus, and more. Their lives collide and crash in astounding ways with a mostly unknown cast. I'm not familiar with this cast at all. Wendy, of course, is the star also, as well as the writer and the director. Any comments?
I mean, it sounds all right. It also sounds a little mean-spirited. But that's just my own opinion for what it's worth.
From Belgium, director and screenwriter Bert Scholliers, Charlie and Hannah's Grand Night Out. 2 girls, 1 night, magical candy consumed. 20-somethings, Charlie and Hannah find themselves strolling through the city as events take a wildly surreal turn. Transported to a trippy galaxy filled with cosmic wisdom and contradictions, the pair learns to realize their search for love can take many forms. Again, mostly unknown cast. From Canada, Fake Tattoos, written and directed by Pascal Plante. Shy Theo finds himself unexpectedly kicked in the heart by a punk rock romance on his 18th birthday as Mag bursts into his life for a rollicking encounter. Set against the backdrop of music and mayhem, this coming-of-age tale explores the thrashing fragility of summer love as life choices and separation loom with no true answers in sight.
Oh, that's always fun. You know, first love stories are always fun because there's something that I think everybody can pretty much relate to. You know, your first love, your first serious feelings for another human being. I think everybody can relate to that. From
the USA, Fishbones, director, screenwriter Joanne Moni Park. Hannah, a Korean immigrant on winter break, is caught between worlds. While struggling to find peace with her conservative mother and the expectations surrounding her future, Hannah finds herself falling for Nico, a tender and affectionate Latina music producer. Mm-hmm. So that could be obviously a lesbian romance going on there that might not be approved of by families. Mostly unknown cast. From the USA, director and screenwriter Charlie Burns' film Human Affairs. This richly earnest drama follows Genevieve, a surrogate who must reckon with her ambivalence about the pregnancy and her precarious feelings for the parents-to-be. I know the name David Harbour, and I know the name Carrie Condon. I'm not familiar with Dominic Famusa or Julie Solowowski, the stars of that film. Lovers from Denmark, directed by Niels Holstein Ka. It's K-A-A. That's Ka, right? Like the snake from Jungle Book.
Yeah, I would say Ka.
And screenwriter Magnus B.B. Lisbakken. In the streets, parks, and cafes of Copenhagen, a triptych of love stories come to vivid life, framed with the superb naturalism these tales through the seasons tackle the ever-rising tide of loneliness and self-doubt that can come in the face of new love. Sounds chirpy. Mm-hmm. M/M from director-writer Drew Lent, a Canadian-German co-production. Wayward Canadian Matthew, crushed by the isolation of being new to Berlin, turns his sexual desires toward Matthias that spiral into a dark fixation of assumed identity. Soon, this obsessive power struggle between the two careens toward brutal passion and violence in a bid for dominance.
Nice.
I'm getting a distinct theme from SLAMDANCE
love
this year.
Sucks. Apparently, somebody at SLAMDANCE had their heart broken one too many times because all I'm getting from the movies this year is love sucks. Don't trust your heart to anybody. That's fantastic. We all really need that message right now.
From the USA, director
Thank
Trevor
you.
Stevens and screenwriter Bomani Story, Rock Steady Row. Demented chaos rules this bizarro world college campus where the reigning gang frats target a freshman who dares cross their path. Trapped between a blaze of twisted Mad Max-style power games, he shrewdly plays both sides, fueling apocalyptic-sized battles that escalate to ensnare the school dean who's coming unglued. So it's a modern-day rock and roll version of Yojimbo from the sound
I guess,
of it.
yeah.
With Hester Horton, Diamond White, Logan Huffman, Isaac Alsama, Allie Marie Evans, Larry Miller, and Peter Gilroy. Songs in the Sun from Denmark, from Kristen Serbo Lindgaard, the director, and screenwriters Alan Hyde and Christian Serbo Lindgaard. Off the coast of Denmark, young Anna discovers she is the only lifeline to ailing childhood friend Julie, and Sonia, Julie's apathetic mother. Over the course of one momentous afternoon, Anna will learn the healing power of belief and myth-making in everyday living.
Okay,
that sounds up your line. Yeah,
that actually sounds positive and female and like something that actually sounds like it's worth watching.
And finally, in the dramatic category, from France, The Starry Sky Above Me, directed and written by Ian Clipper and also co-written by Raphael Neal. Bruno is happy to live out his days luxuriating in the existential highs and lows only a brilliant literary mind can appreciate. But when his loved ones seek to intervene with the help of a psychiatrist, Bruno's bohemian lifestyle may in fact be the perfect antidote to the colorless PC lives they didn't know they hated. So that also sounds like a goofy romp. Mm. Any of these striking your fancy?
They all sound like the plots are really interesting and stuff like that. I have to be honest, the ones set in the school,
Rocksteady Row?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Right now, the situation in the world being what it is, I find that distasteful.
It's SLAMDANCE. They specialize in distasteful.
I realize that, and I'm not, and I'm certainly
no
not.
offense. That's a
No,
mantle they wear proudly.
No, that wasn't intended.
Like
as
the Boston Underground, they wear that proudly.
I realize that, and I'm certainly not one of these pearl clutching. Think of the children, Stepford bitches. But I'm just saying, right now, with things going on in this country the way they are, that leaves me with a very bad taste in my mouth.
Okay, fair enough.
But that's just me.
In addition to Leader of the Pack, which we mentioned, the documentaries showing at SLAMDANCE were equally interesting. From Ecuador and the U.S., directors Ashley Bishop and Jim Bressard gave us Circus Ecuador. James and Ashley traveled to the jungles of Ecuador to make a documentary about a school being built for an indigenous community, only to discover that the community may or may not be involved in aliens, gold smuggling, human trafficking, and murder. So this sounds like a conspiracy. Is it real? Like the woodpecker thing, the Russian woodpecker,
yeah.
And Santuala, which was also intriguing.
Yeah.
Freedom for the Wolf from Germany, director Rupert Russell. From Hong Kong to Tunisia to Bollywood, people are fighting against elected leaders, dismantling freedom and democracy. These seemingly disparate international stories are cohesively tied into what is happening in the U.S. to reach some very compelling conclusions. Unless you happen to be for the Midwest and voted for Donald Trump. In which case, they'll think you're full of crap.
Well, yeah, that's true. They might be wrong.
Yeah.
There are way too many places on this planet right now where people feel like there is a collective boot against the collective neck of the people that live in certain countries.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was Thomas Jefferson who said people shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of the people, or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think it was Ben Franklin actually who said that. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
It's one of the founding fathers.
Sure.
Yeah, it's one of the founding fathers.
There's a reason that statement exists.
Yeah.
You know.
From the USA, director Marissa Maltz, this movie Ingrid, an intimate look at a woman who left her life as a successful fashion designer and mother in Texas to become a reclusive hermit immersed in nature, focused solely on creating her art.
Wow.
Could be interesting. Instant Dreams from the Netherlands, from director Willem Baptist, an essayistic quest for the secret of instant film, the magic appeal of Polaroid, and what that tells us about the fascinating relationship we have with the photographic image. Everybody kind of stuck on having their own pictures. Why? What does that say about me? I hate having my picture taken. I don't care how it's done. I just hate having it done.
You're unhappy with the way you look?
And it's not just that. I'm afraid I'll break the cameras. I mean, you don't take pictures of Jabba the Hutt and not expect to have your picture.
Well, I don't like having my picture taken.
But see, you're pretty. You're beautiful.
I am not.
Yes, you are.
I don't like having my picture taken simply because I think when I smile, my smile looks fake. But that's just, you know.
From the USA, Man on Fire from director Joel Fendelman. Grand Saline, I guess that's how you pronounce it, Texas, was a sleepy, unremarkable town until a white preacher lit himself on fire to protest the town's racism in 2014. Wow, okay.
Well,
that's a strong statement.
That is a very strong statement. There are some things that, and this sounds horribly morbid, but there are some things that some people are willing to die for.
Mm-hmm.
And
it doesn't say he died.
Well,
it's likely, but it didn't say he died.
If you've set yourself on fire, unless you just plucked a hair off your head and held it over a Bic, you know, I don't care what you've done to yourself, you've probably effed yourself up pretty good.
I know.
You know.
But I'm saying it doesn't say he
died. No, it doesn't say he died, but it's the whole idea that you're willing to hurt yourself to that extent for a cause sends a very powerful message. I mean, we saw that back in the 60s with the Buddhist monks that set themselves on fire to protest the Vietnam War.
Right.
You know, that kind. I mean, that's got to be the ultimate expression of, please pay attention to me, pay attention to this problem, is to immolate yourself.
Yeah,
you know?
we don't condone immolating yourselves to all those out there.
Oh, hell no, we don't.
Then stop encouraging them.
I'm not encouraging anybody to do it. Oh, like anybody listens to me crying out loud, I wouldn't listen to me. I mean, well, I wouldn't. I'm crazy. You know that.
Max from the USA, director Josh Pollan. German is a young artist and filmmaker struggling to complete his first feature film and express his undying love to a girl while secretly living at an airport and trying to stay sane.
At an airport?
So, in other words, he can't get in. He can't get into the country.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Mr. Fish, cartooning from the deep end, from director Pablo Bryant. This personal documentary follows a controversial political cartoonist as he struggles to provide for his family and stay true to his creativity in a world where biting satiric humor has an ever-diminishing commercial value.
That's an interesting idea. That's an interesting idea for a film. Because it is true. I mean, people... this is going to sound bad, and I admit that right up front. This is going to sound terrible. Satire is... Oh, gosh. I don't know how to say this and not sound horribly snobby, so I'm just going to jump in with both feet.
Just say it.
Satire is for smart people. And there's way too many people in this world right now who are just not intelligent enough.
This is what we were saying. This is also part of that phrase that we like to use, too hip for the room.
Yep. These people are so...
Our listeners will be capable of doing it, for sure.
There are so many people who are so busy being offended by something that they fail to see, oh, wait, this is taking the piss out of something. Oh, okay, never mind. They're too busy shrieking that they're being violated and they're feeling unsafe and blah 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 and all this stuff like that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, You can
tell we're part of the 2 generations before today's people.
I'm not laying any political or any idealist point of view on that. I'm just saying there are so many people nowadays where this offends me and that offends me. And great, you know what? If it offends you, don't look at it. Don't tell me I can't look at it. I have survived on this planet for 40 years and don't need your advice about what to do with my life. Thank you.
There's another great movie from, I believe it was last year or the year before, and I think it was at SLAMDANCE, movie called Yarn. Mm-hmm. It's on Netflix right now if you've not seen it, and you should take a look at it.
And we loved it. We both loved it.
It was great, and it's all about nonconformists.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Yeah.
Through the use of yarn in different projects.
Yeah, using yarn to make...
The art project in Germany was really, really stunning because we didn't get it until the last shot showed us what she was doing.
Yeah.
And it was like, holy cow.
I mean, there's so many things in the world. People I don't understand this whole last, 15, 20 years or so, that all of a sudden everybody's now noticing, oh my gosh, this is offensive and that's offensive. And I'm not saying that there aren't some things that were done in the past that if you look at them now, you're like, holy crap, what were these people thinking? Who thought this was funny or thought this was a good idea?
Well, when you consider that Birth of a Nation is considered to be a true classic film, and then you think about the makeup of this film made by D.W. Griffith in 1915.
Right.
And you're freaking out because it is so... it's basically one long 3-hour commercial for the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
It's basically a 3-hour induction ceremony, trying to induce people to join the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
It's an awful portrayal of African Americans. And like you said, this film is considered a classic. And the thing is...
I think that's mostly for the techniques that were used and such.
Right. It's because, wow, no one had ever done this before and that before and the other thing before. And that's
Although
true.
I noticed that his other film, Intolerance, now gets more notice because it's not quite as bad.
Right. That's true. You're
by
absolutely
today's
right.
standards.
By today's standards. But that's just jumping on. Let's keep going.
Let me wrap up with the final film, Sunnyside, directed by Frederick Carbon from Belgium and the Netherlands. On a seaside mountain in Northern California, two old friends, one a visionary architect, the other an influential sound artist, dream, talk, live, and create. See, that sounds like my kind of film.
Yeah, it
I
does.
love stuff like that.
And you like eggs. Well, it's called Sunnyside. I just kind of...
Oh, for Pete's sake. Really? That's a stretch.
So I guess it's not all it's cracked up to be?
Oh. Just yoke it up, okay? Just yoke it up.
I'm sorry.
Honestly.
My brain's kind of scrambled. Stop me! Help me! It's going to get worse. I'm sorry. I have to pun at least once a day or I get twitchy. I'm sorry. I can't help it.
You might call yourself, if you don't pun, you're feeling a little over easy.
No, I get a little hard boiled.
Okay.
Could we please?
Enough of the egg puns.
They're
Sorry.
probably really getting upset right now. Sorry.
Our listeners? No, they're not getting upset. They're going like, oh my God, really? They're at it again?
They're going, she hasn't taken her meds yet, has she?
There are quite a few good titles here, and there are a few that were added later that I was not able to access here. Just a few, though. Plus, Sundance has its own huge, or SLAMDANCE, rather, has its own huge shorts section also. And we'll have links up where you can go take a look at the festival in its entirety. And I don't know. Of all these, there's 2 or 3 of them I would be interested in. Unlike you, I think that the Rock City Row sounds really interesting.
I mean,
to me.
maybe I'm reading too much into that right now.
I like The Starry Sky Above Me and Songs in the Sun also. Both sound very uplifting and kind of
I guess the
goofy.
What is it called? Rock Steady Row?
Rock Steady Row.
Rock Steady Row. I am of the opinion Kurosawa did it better, but that's...
Most of the documentaries sound pretty good too, so SLAMDANCE has a history of putting out some really good stuff, and they're usually the ones that go national, the ones that people notice are the documentaries. They've won, most recently that I can think of, $1 Million Duck was a monster hit around the country. And it was the SLAMDANCE documentary prize winner.
Yep.
2015? Last year we were at Salem. We didn't get to go in 17, so it's 2016.
Yeah,
so,
we were lucky enough to see that at Salem, and it was fascinating.
It was
a little weird.
Yeah, well, the one guy was really weird, but
well, just the idea that they have, there's this whole thing about, these are duck stamps that they're being paid money. This whole prize thing, and then it's
you pay for the duck stamp to be on your license
to go
to hunt the
shoot ducks. What the actual hell?
That's not what you would have normally said if we weren't recording.
No.
And anyway, so there'll be information on it up. SLAMDANCE happened a couple weeks ago, and as usual was a big hit with the crowd, although I don't think any of these did land any distributors as of yet. I'll have to check and see. I didn't find anything on them when I did my preliminary check. But they will always attract some of the smaller distributors for either direct to on-demand or DVD release.
Yeah, or Netflix.
Or yeah, exactly. Next week on our Festival of Film Festivals, we head off to sunny Southern California, and the festival that actually starts the entire circuit out every year, the Palm Springs International Film Festival, and that's coming up next week.
But stick around for the rest of Subject Cinema this week.
T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown.
Real movies for real people. Subject Cinema.
All right, Kristen, I am so excited that you've decided to do a podcast with me, but what are we going to do a podcast about? There's so many other movie podcasts. We got to do something original.
Well, I'm a big fan of Disney movies. What about something like that?
That's just kid stuff. What do we want to do that for?
Did you know that The Avengers is a Disney movie? Or that Pulp Fiction is a Disney movie?
Pulp Fiction is not a Disney movie.
It's technically owned by Miramax, which is part of Disney.
We are still going to talk about the Disney animated movies, though, right?
I thought you said that was kid stuff.
Well, I've got 2 kids. I got to be a good dad and stuff.
So be sure to subscribe to the Walt Sent Me podcast, where we discuss the various subsidiaries of the Walt Disney Studios, including the animated movies.
It's available on iTunes, Podomatic, and wherever you find great podcasts. And I swear, it's not kid stuff.
All movies, all the time. Subject Cinema with TC and Kim.
The main screen.
I have seen gods fly. I've seen men build weapons that I couldn't even imagine. I've seen aliens drop from the sky.
Yeah.
But I have never seen anything like this. How much more are you hiding?
Hold up. Let's go.
We are home.
Okay, it's the latest anticipated blockbuster from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let's get right into it. Chadwick Boseman leading the cast in Black Panther. Give us the rundown.
Okay. The beginning of Black Panther tells the story of the country of Wakanda in Africa. Many centuries ago, there were 5 African tribes that were constantly in war. And one of the things they were in war over was a meteorite that fell from the sky that they felt contained some kind of great magic. Turned out the meteor was this giant source of vibranium, one of the hardest metals known to man. The plants and the environment were affected by this meteor falling to Earth, and one thing that was created was a heart-shaped herb that anyone who drinks the potion made from this herb gains incredible superhuman, powers, strength and speed, endurance, all kinds of cool things like that. The first person to drink this became the Black Panther, the warrior priest king of their tribe, which united all of the tribes of Wakanda except for one, the Jabari tribe. The Jabari tribe decided not to join with the other tribes to form the nation of Wakanda and went off to live by themselves in the mountains in seclusion. Wakanda, because of the fact that the people had this store of vibranium, became very technologically advanced far before anybody else in the world. Far more advanced. But the problem is, the people of Wakanda looked at the other nations of the world, especially looking at how people of African descent and people actually from Africa themselves were being treated by the Europeans, which you can read as terribly, and they retreated into their own country, allowing the rest of the world to think that Wakanda is actually a poor third world nation, when in fact the real Wakanda, which cannot be seen because of their technology, is very well off and has all these great scientific advancement and is ruled over the family, the royal family, of which the king is still the Black Panther. We see 1992 when the king at the time, King T'Chaka, goes to Oakland, California to visit with a man that is actually, it turns out that it's his brother, N'Jobu. N'Jobu has been dealing with a man named Ulysses Claw, which some of us already know from Avengers Age of Ultron, who had stolen some vibranium and had killed people trying to escape. As it turns out, N'Jobu is working with Claw. N'Jobu has decided that people all over the world can use Wakandan science to rise up and overthrow their own governments. T'Chaka's not having any of that, and it ends poorly, to say the least. In 2016, the whole debacle that happened in Captain America Civil War occurred with the death of King T'Chaka at doings of Helmut Zero, trying to bring about the destruction of the Avengers for what happened in his country of Sokovia. The death of T'Chaka brings to the forefront his son T'Challa, who now must become king and must take on the mantle of the Black Panther. This is not the easiest transition in the world, although most of the people of Wakanda are happy to have him as king because they think he will be a good king and a good Black Panther, including his mother Ramonda and his younger sister Shuri, who is a technological genius. There are certain people that aren't particularly crazy about the idea of T'Challa becoming king, specifically the leader of the Jabari tribe, a rather large, imposing gentleman by the name of M'Baku, who challenges T'Challa in a ritual ceremony where all of the tribes come together and they all have to say, we're not going to challenge the king for the right of being king. And all the other tribes say, we're not challenging. And here comes M'Baku saying, nope, I am. And we get a really vicious physical fight between T'Challa and M'Baku, which ends with M'Baku surrendering and T'Challa showing mercy, because technically T'Challa could have killed M'Baku. That was his right at the end of that battle, but he spares M'Baku's life, which comes back later in the film, as do other things from the past, including a young man, an extremely angry young man, by the name of Eric Killmonger, who has ties to the royal family that he feels entitles him to the throne of Wakanda and the fate of Wakanda's people and Wakanda's vibranium. And it's up to T'Challa to put things right.
With Chadwick Boseman as King T'Challa, alias the Black Panther, Michael B. Jordan as Eric Stevens, a.k.a. Killmonger, Lupita Nyong'o as Nakia, Denai Guerrilla as Okoye, I think her name was pronounced, Martin Freeman as CIA agent Everett Ross, Daniel Kaluuya as W'Kabi, Letitia Wright as Shuri, right?
I think it's
Shuri.
Shuri.
Winston Duke as M'Baku, Angela Bassett as Ramonda, the Queen Mother, Forrest Whitaker as Zuri, a elder statesman, and Andy Serkis as Ulysses Klaue, plus a few other people here and there. We've been waiting for this as the latest installment of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yep.
What was your opinion?
I realize at this point I may sound like a slightly broken record, and if you don't know what that means, ask your parents. But I gotta say it again. I just gotta do it. Make mine Marvel. Holy sugar-covered crickets on a moped, is this movie amazing! It was so awesome. It was powerful. It was exciting. It was fantastic. It had so much to offer and so many amazing characters that you had these strong, vibrant, powerful women that never gave up their femininity for their own power and the fact that they could kick a ridiculous amount of ass. It's a great film. It's dealing with the whole idea of the old saying, the sins of the fathers shall be visited upon their sons. And it's really, really an amazing film dealing with a lot of deep subjects. I know that the term comic book movie, some people instantly turn up their noses at that kind of a term. But this film, just like last year's Wonder Woman, is an example of a comic book movie done absolutely right. It is so well, and it's so well cast. Absolutely, everybody is incredible. Chadwick Boseman, we already knew was awesome in the part of T'Challa from Captain America Civil War. He continues to be just stellar here. Michael B. Jordan is someone we have both been huge fans of. I think the first thing we both saw him in was Chronicle.
Yes.
And we both were like, this guy is going to make something of himself because he's really good. And he is absolutely terrifying as as Killmonger. He really is truly scary. I think everybody else was amazing in the cast. Lupita Nyong'o, who is a wonderful actress and an incredibly beautiful lady, absolutely fantastic. Denai Gurira, I know I'm messing your name up, ma'am, and I'm so very sorry. It took me so long because I'm going, I know her. Oh my gosh, that's Michonne. It took me, I was like, it was driving me crazy. And then at one point she smiled, and there was that beautiful smile. She has one of the loveliest smiles in cinema right now. And I was like, the penny finally dropped, and I went, oh my gosh, that's Michonne. I'm like, is there
From
The Walking Dead.
Yeah, because you got to tell people that.
Sorry. Not our audience, but anyway.
No.
I'm like, good grief. Is there anywhere where this woman does not kick ass? Because, I mean, she's this incredibly loyal, powerful woman in this film, and she's got an almost samurai code of honor. The honor is a big part of this film, and I think it's so important to all of the characters and the whole film in general. I loved it. I thought this was such an amazing film. And someone else I got to bring up super duper quick. I'm really sorry. Winston Duke as M'Baku. Oh my gosh. Every scene this guy is in, he picks up and walks off with it. And that's not also because he's, enormous and looks incredibly strong, because he does, along with being really, really, really handsome. But he's just so charismatic. He is unbelievably charismatic. Absolutely loved him. Loved everybody in the cast. Nobody felt out of place. When this movie was over, and do I really need to stay for the credits? Do I really need to say that? You guys are smart enough to know that, right? It's a Marvel movie. Come on. The second this movie was over, I was like, I want to see it again. I want to see it again right now. See it, and see it. So now that I'm done, I gotta breathe. I'm out of breath. What did you think?
I haven't cared for the last several Marvel movies.
Yes.
I was not terribly impressed with Civil War. I did not really care much for Thor Ragnarok. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was only so-so, and I didn't like the first one of those. The last Marvel movie I really liked all the way through was Doctor Strange. Wasn't sure where this would go, but the cast had me intrigued, and I got to go back and say that director Ryan Coogler has this way of making Michael B. Jordan really shine. He's worked with him three times now, starting with Fruitvale Station and then Creed, and now here. I'm. It's hard for me to put this into words because it's really.
Deep breath.
No, I know what I want to say.
Okay.
I'm just dragging it out for attention and taste. Black Panther, I can give it a review in 4 words. Best Marvel movie ever.
Woo.
This movie rocks from beginning to end. Chadwick Boseman is fantastic in the role of T'Challa. We find out a lot more about him here than we did in Civil War. And he is the heart and soul of the film, and yet he's not, because the ladies in his life, Lupita Nyong'o's character, which is Nakia, his former girlfriend, now an undercover spy for Wakanda out in the world, his incredibly brilliant and extremely sarcastic little sister Shuri, played wonderfully by Letitia Wright, and the amazing Denai Gurira as Okoye. Damn, I don't want to mess with these ladies.
No.
Add Angela Bassett to the mix, and you got a big problem.
She's so amazing. Angela Bassett could read the phone book, and I would be captivated. She just is so regal here. It's unbelievable.
We didn't really see much of Winston King's M'Baku, but we will see more of him. He is part of Avengers Infinity War. And I'm Daniel Kaluuya, who's getting all kinds of raves for Get Out. was stupendous.
I'm sorry I didn't mention him.
As Wakabi. And I'm...
Who is involved with Denai's character, and that gets awkward.
Yeah, it does. And so does his whole thing.
Yeah.
Because of what happens.
Yep.
I wasn't much of a fan of Martin Freeman's Everett Ross in Civil War. Here, he grows on you. And like you said, it'll be funny if they can get him in a scene, one little scene in Avengers Infinity War where he's next to Doctor Strange.
I will laugh. Marvel, make this happen, please.
He'll be like, do I know you? So, 4 seasons of Sherlock together? I know. The score is fantastic, and the cinematography is unbelievable. Special effects, out of the ballpark. Coogler's direction has made this one of, if not the best comic film ever, with the exception of The Dark Knight from Christopher Nolan. And I'm just so blown away by it. And she really did. Before the credits even finished rolling, she was looking at me. I want to see it again. I want to see it again. I do too. This is just a really awesome film. And it's non-racial. Let me put it that way. I'm tired of people saying, Black Panther is a black movie. No. Yes, it's cast as almost entirely African American or, whatever. Some of them don't come from America, come from Canada or other places. It doesn't matter if they're, all that same race. This is a multiracial movie that looks at multiracial problems. Yeah. There are going to be those certain people out there who are going to say, it's anti-white, it's anti-America, it's anti-this, it's anti-that. No, it's not. It's just your perception. It gets very political. Yeah. It's the most political of all of the movies except maybe The Winter Soldier. Mm. And it does so without beating you over the head with it.
To the people who are like, it's anti-white, it's anti-this, you know what? Maybe that's a guilty conscience you got, because if anybody...
No, don't start sounding like some of these people we can't stand.
No, I'm just saying, we both said afterwards, anybody who's out there with this whole, it's anti-white and all this stuff like that, if there was any part of the world...
We made a list of everything we thought we'd hear, and we're starting to online.
Yeah. If there was any part of the world that had a reason to feel anti-white, it's that part of the world. Let's be honest and call it what it is, folks.
It is.
But the thing is, let's try and all make things better for the next generation, and the one after that, and the one after that. That's just my opinion for what it's worth.
So what's your score?
Are you crazy? Black Panther gets an A+ from me.
A+ from me too. It's easily one of, if not the best movies in the Marvel universe. The only one that comes close to me is Winter Soldier. And I really loved this film. Black Panther is now playing everywhere and is setting box office records its opening weekend. Don't miss it.
Go see it now. And then go see it again.
The best movies. Subject Cinema.
PNRNetworks shows depend on our listeners. It's you that makes us who we are. Help us bring you all the best we can. Become a Patreon patron. Donations start at just $2 a month, and the more patrons we can get, the more we'll be able to offer. You can get great perks, plus exclusive blogs and podcasts available only for being a patron as well. It's absolutely fantastic. So please, become a Patreon patron today. We need you. Patreon.com/PNRNetworks.
Your every man's film school. This is Subject Cinema.
You have only one job that matters.
You?
Yes. You hated me ever since Peter. You can't stand the sight of of me because you couldn't hold him, Stanley.
And it's not only Peter, it's Craig, too. You're afraid I could get him back, and I could if I wanted him.
Now you get into one of these moods where Kim has this unusual pattern where she gets a movie that she likes. When she should be watching stuff that she's not seen before, she'll sit there and watch the same movie 4 times in a week. You did that with Jesse James. You did that with
sometimes
The Town.
Sometimes I just leave it on because
She's
it's
been
something
having
familiar.
Clerks 2 on lately. What does that say? But she also does our classic films, and she was pulling up a classic I'd never heard of with Bette Davis and Olivia de Havilland, 1940 what?
42.
1942's In This Our Life. What did you think?
Okay.
What drew you to it, first of all?
I was just in a classic movie mood. You know, every once in a while you get in one of those moods where you're like, I want to watch a movie, but what do you decide to watch? I mean, some people gravitate toward westerns or war pictures or monster movies.
You were watching Stagecoach yesterday, too.
Yeah. Well, I was watching the remake because I wanted to see if I liked it any better than the original. Newsflash, I didn't.
Now, the original's a great film.
Yeah. But I was just like, you know what? I feel like a classic today. And I was like, you know what? I feel like a Bette Davis today. So I just started flipping through our local guide, and I was like, I've seen that, don't want to see that. And I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. So In This Our Life, which is based on a novel which won a Pulitzer Prize the year before by Ellen Glasgow, this was the second film directed by veteran director, well, soon, I shouldn't say he obviously wasn't a veteran. He wasn't a veteran director then, but would become an esteemed director. I was the second film directed by John Huston. The story of In This Our Life, which I admit is an odd sort of a title. It sounds terribly soap opera-y. Really?
Put some soap opera organ on?
I was thinking of that. I'm thinking like it's got like this Days of Our Years kind of title or something like that. The story for the most part takes place in Richmond, Virginia, in the home of Asa and Lavinia Timberlake.
Oh, those are names that definitely belong to soap opera. Asa and Lavinia? Okay.
Who have 2 daughters that, for reasons that are never gone into in the movie, they might be in the book, I don't know. They have an older daughter named Roy and a younger daughter named Stanley. And both of these names are written as a man would write them. I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't get it.
Apparently, father wanted boys. Okay.
The thing is, a little more backstory. The father, Mr. Timberlake, was in business with his wife's brother at one point, William Fitzroy. Through some duplicitous dealings, Uncle William managed to swindle their father out of his share of the company and generously gave him a job with the company after he bought the company for a song once the stock market crash happened in the 20s.
Right.
So, we have older sister Roy and younger sister Stanley. Roy is married to a doctor named Peter. And Stanley, right now, is engaged to an attorney named Craig. Craig is a rather different sort of attorney than the type that you're used to in movies and TV shows now, in the fact that Craig is a lawyer with scruples and principles, and he's more or less like a Perry Mason kind of a defending, believes in helping the little guy kind of lawyer, as opposed to the, amoral, sleazy scumbags we see on TV nowadays. The thing is, Stanley is actually having an affair with her sister's husband, Peter, and convinces them to run off and live as a married couple someplace else. And this happens via Peter lying to his wife, saying that he's going away for medical reasons because another doctor needs his help. He winds up running off with...
For medical reasons?
He's like another doctor. His whole thing is, this other doctor needs me to help with an operation, so I'm going down to this other town. Bye. and instead he winds up running off with his sister-in-law, and Roy winds up divorcing Peter, and Peter and Stanley wind up getting married, and they're living in Baltimore. The problem is that now that Stanley has Peter, now all of a sudden the bloom goes off the rose, and it doesn't take very long for that to happen, because Stanley is I can't use that word. I mean, she's not a bitch. She's beyond a bitch. She is the worst thing you can call a woman.
A Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get if you know the rest of it, you'll understand what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Or didn't we decide those were going to be called umbrages from now on?
Yes. She's a complete
in honor of Dolores Umbridge?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
What she is what would if you called another woman that, the next thing that would happen would be a woman taking off her earrings and taking off her shoes, because
she's gonna whip your ass.
She's gonna kick your butt. The thing is, Peter doesn't make enough money for Stanley. Peter's not around enough for Stanley because, he's a doctor. And they have this whole pesky saving people's lives thing.
Oh, such pests.
Stanley wants to go dancing. Stanley wants to spend money. Stanley wants this. Stanley wants that. Stanley is basically a 3-year-old child in the body of a grown woman.
Oh, so she's just getting practice for baby Jane here.
Kind of.
Okay.
Whatever she wants it, and she wants it right now. And to hell with the damage that it will cause to other people around her.
Right, okay.
She also has a relationship with her Uncle William, which is extremely squishy. It's extremely squicky, cringe-inducing. Oh my Lord in heaven, I need a shower. I mean, there's nothing hinted at on the, I don't know about the book. There's nothing hinted at on screen that Uncle William has done anything, untoward. But Stanley definitely gives the impression that, especially toward the end of the film, in a scene that literally had me with my jaw just dropped open. And I've sat through some of the most squishy, violent horror movies I've ever seen. This woman scared me. The deep amount of selfishness and narcissism in this person is more terrifying than some 7-foot dude in a hockey mask with a machete.
I'm in my office while she's watching this, because this movie didn't interest me at all. I'm in my office while she's watching this, and I can hear her cussing and swearing at the TV every 15 seconds over things going on screen. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting in here snickering to myself about, my God, this movie must really be driving her nuts.
Well, there's so many. I mean, it's a great film.
3 pages of notes.
Yeah, it's a great film. There are things about this film, obviously, that now, sitting back in 2018, that you would sit there and go, oh my Lord, who thought this was a good idea? I mean, besides obvious stuff like it's the 40s, so everybody smoked. And, everybody wears a hat, which I don't understand. You only wear a hat when it's raining. It's stupid to wear a hat other times. And women's hats are stupid. Women's hats
you want proof of that? Watch the Kentucky Derby sometime.
I mean, hats are supposed to keep the sun out of your eyes, right? That's the whole point of a hat, is to keep the sun out of your eyes.
Pillbox hats don't go anywhere near your eyes.
No,
so those are not going to be keeping the sun out of your eyes.
Okay, yeah. Well, women wear hats as a fashion statement. Men wear hats to keep the sun out of their eyes.
Or to keep the sweat off their brow.
Yeah. But the hats
or to hide their hair like me.
Hats women wore in the 40s, I'm like, why? Just why?
Because they look like swimming pools.
They look ridiculous. I mean, they look like half of the Sydney Opera House on your head. I'm like, what the? I don't understand this. But the film goes on with, and it goes on from there. Roy winds up falling in love with Craig, and there's this whole other relationship, and there's a hit and run, and all kinds of other stuff going on. It's an amazing film. The cast is incredible. Why don't you read the cast for us?
Betty Davis is Stanley Timberlake Kingsmill. Olivia de Havilland as Roy Timberlake Fleming. George Brent as Craig Fleming. Dennis Morgan as Peter Kingsmill. Frank Craven as their father, Asa Timberlake. Billy Burke as their mother, Lavinia Timberlake. Charles Coburn as William Fitzroy. Ernest Anderson as Perry Clay. Hattie McDaniel as Minerva Clay. Lee Patrick as Betty. Mary Servoss as Charlotte. William B. Davison as Jim Purdy. Edward Fielding as Dr. Buchanan. John Hamilton, is that the John Hamilton who was Perry White on the Superman, as the inspector, and William Forrest as the forest ranger with a missing R in that forest ranger.
As I said, this film takes place in the 40s, and it does take place in the South, and I will refrain from a few remarks because I don't want to offend anybody from the South, but good grief. I realize this was a long time ago, and I'm not going to shake my finger at people in the South now because I'd like to think things have changed. But one thing, the first time this actually got said in the film, I was like, they didn't really just say that, did they? And I rewound the film. I was like, no, they did. When they referred to somebody as colored.
That was the normal term back
then.
I
was like, what? I'm sorry. I grew up in the North. I grew up in the late 60s, early 70s. I never heard that term, and I was.
Well, that term was not in favor when you were younger.
No, and I was.
It later became. It was politically correct at first, and after colored for Negro, and then black. Now it's African American, and but it's still the same thing.
It freaked me out. It completely blew my mind. The cast here is so incredible. Although, to be perfectly honest, I don't know how much you would have liked Olivia de Havilland's character, because you go on and on and on and on and on.
I don't like Melanie. Is she that bad?
No, she's definitely not as saintly as Melanie.
Well, then I probably would have liked her. Melanie's problem was that she was too saintly.
You don't feel like you're going to see cartoon birdies twittering around Roy, but she's definitely the good sister, and Stanley is definitely the best way I could describe Stanley Timberlake Kingsmill is the human embodiment of a black hole. The idea that you have this force that devours everything that comes into contact with it and destroys everything that comes in contact with it to feed its own hunger, and it's never satisfied. And like I said, that's more terrifying to me than some yahoo with a chainsaw. It's just because these kind of people exist. I mean, people with chainsaws exist too. But
the novel did actually get into the incestuous desire for Uncle William and racist attitudes in Richmond society at the time, but they didn't touch on those in the movie.
They did touch on the racism more than you would have thought a film in the 40s would have been able to. John Ford made it very clear with his direction that...
John Huston.
I'm sorry, John Huston. John Huston made it very clear in his direction who he felt was being victimized here and why, and made it very obvious that he was holding a mirror up to society and saying, look at what you're doing, look at how ugly it is, look at how wrong it is. And that was very brave for the time. He could have pissed people off, and this movie never would have seen the light of day. As for the incestuous relationship, like I said, it's hinted at. And there are a few times, especially towards the end of the film, where Uncle William's attitude toward Stanley, it's only towards Stanley. He never gives off this attitude toward Roy, because I don't think Roy would put up with it. His whole attitude towards Stanley, it is very like, oh, please, no, jump cut, do something else, cut away, do something, no, because it's being reciprocated up to a point. It's an amazing film. If you get a chance to check out In This Our Life, which you can do if you're checking out anything on your local, if you're in the area, Comcast video on demand.
It's on most on-demand services right now.
Yeah. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. It was a really interesting look back at a different time. It's not an easy look. It's not an easy look by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a really interesting look at a different time, and I give it an A-.
That's good. So check it out if you're so inclined to watch classic films. In This Our Life from director John Huston, available through On Demand in most areas.
T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema.
Want to know what's happening for the weekend? Then check out Subject Cinema's 3-Minute Weekend, spotlighting all the new films hitting your local theaters. Join host T.C. Kirkham as he gives you the 411 on all the new blockbuster releases, as well as the indies that might be coming to your town, and choices for video on demand as well. 3-Minute Weekend, every Friday morning from Subject Cinema and eCinemaOne.com, a member of the Lamb Podcasting Network, a PNRNetworks podcast.
We've got the films of the present and future. This is Subject Cinema.
The Silver Stream.
Preying on poor women, and the Gotham police stand twiddling their thumbs.
Your evening attire, sir.
That was not the suit. I need Alfred. I mean to rid Gotham of the Ripper. He's a skilled hunter. And he's just
It's one of the newer DC titles to hit on demand in their DC animation network of shows.
Mm-hmm.
Give us the rundown on Batman Gotham by Gaslight.
Okay. Gotham by Gaslight, based on the graphic novel, Batman Gotham by Gaslight, I should say, based on the graphic novel Gotham by Gaslight, by Brian Augustin and Mike Mignola, is a DC Elseworlds comic. What that means for the uninitiated, the Elseworlds series by DC is the idea of taking established characters, putting them in a different time frame, or changing something very specific about a group of characters, but while some things change, some things stay the same. Batman Gotham by Gaslight tells the story of the Gotham City of the 1890s, which has its own Bruce Wayne and its own Batman, who is basically does the same thing that Batman in modern Gotham City does: fights criminals and helps, tries to help the oppressed.
It's Batman set in the past. That's all you gotta say. You don't have to set up all this other stuff.
However, the fact that there's a big difference here. This Batman is hunted by the police as well. He doesn't have the good relationship with the cops and with Commissioner Jim Gordon that he does in the modern Batman. We see him, the first time we see him in his gear is when he's helping a couple who are being mugged by 3 young children, 3 boys named Dickie, Jason, and Timmy. You do the math. He winds up rescuing the couple and beating the hell out of the person that's forcing these kids to rob a big gentleman named Big Bill Dust. While this is going on, a dancer who goes by the name Ivy the Plant Woman is murdered by a knife-wielding psychopath who is known to the citizens of London, England, Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper is in Gotham and has picked up where he left off on the streets of Whitechapel with murdering women of the evening. Some people in Gotham, unfortunately, believe that Batman and Jack the Ripper are the same person. Some people don't. One of those people would be Selina Kyle, who is an actress and a woman who is trying to protect the women of the lower class area of Gotham called Skinner's End. Another woman who's trying to help as much as she can, Sister Leslie, who is an actual sister. She's a nun, who's trying to help the fallen women of Gotham and trying to keep them safe, and also trying to help out orphans and children dealing with the loss of their parents. She has a patron in Bruce Wayne who is back from his tour of Europe, and Bruce has a very strong friendship with Sister Leslie because she was there for him when he lost his parents at a young age. But with Jack cutting a bloody swath through Gotham as he did through London, and the police seem to be either helpless or indolent about it, it's up to the Batman and possibly a few other people to figure out what's going on.
With Bruce Greenwood as Batman and Bruce Wayne, Jennifer Carpenter as Selina Kyle, Anthony Head as Alfred Pennyworth, Chris Cox as Father Callahan, John DiMaggio as Chief Bullock, David Forsythe as Cyrus Gold, Greg Griffin as Sister Leslie, and Jason, also the singing voice of Selina Kyle. Bob Joles as Mayor Tolliver, Yuri Lowenthal as Harvey Dent, Lincoln Melcher as Dickie, Scott Patterson as James Gordon, William Sawyers as Hugo Strange, Tara Strong as Marlene and Timmy, Bruce Timm as the Arkham Radio Man, and Kari Wurr as Barbara Eileen Gordon and Pamela Isley. So, you want to give us some of the crazy goings-on in this film?
Well, obviously, since this is an Elseworld story, they have to include people from the regular DC universe, so we can sit there and go, I see what you did there. They did that more than once. Most of the time it was done very well, not heavy-handed at all, which I thought was really nice. You mentioned you didn't catch the names of the three orphans at the beginning, and when I told you, you cracked up laughing. I thought that part was done really well. It took me a little bit... excuse me. It took me a little bit to get used to the Batman's outfit in a Victorian setting. I thought it looked clunky. I thought it looked like it would have been difficult to get around in. I felt like by the end of the film, I did feel like that was an unfounded thing on my part. I thought it worked a lot better than I thought it was going to. I thought this was really exciting. The voice cast was superb. But that ending, oh man, you have a great movie, compelling, the reveal of who Jack is. I was like, what the what?
I figured it out about 20 minutes earlier, but I wasn't sure until they actually did the reveal, so.
Yeah. Sometimes I figure it out, sometimes he figures it out. We're like Jonathan and Jennifer Hart, but we're not rich.
I wish.
But... And if you remember what that's from, congrats, you're old. But
it's still on.
I know. But the ending, I was sitting there. The end of this movie is a solid kick in the crotch. I was so infuriated.
I don't know whether I would call it a kick in the crotch. It certainly wasn't a very pleasant ending because nothing really got resolved.
Well, something got resolved in the fact that the main villain is...
They left a lot of open, and they did that all the way through the movie. There was little spots where they would say something, and then it wouldn't come up again.
No, but the end
it was like Tommy Wiseau and his breast cancer. Sorry, it was.
I know.
It was a very sloppy writing job in places.
They made a lot of changes from the graphic novel, especially with the identity of Jack. In the graphic novel, it's a completely different person.
There's a lot in the graphic novel. This is one of those times when they took the title, took the basic idea, and then just wrote what they wanted to.
Yeah. The end of this, I was completely like, no, you come back here. I am not accepting this ending, movie. Son of a bitch. I was really not happy. Up till the end, I was enjoying the hell out of myself. It was kind of like it was with Batman the Killing Joke. The first half hour, I was going...
Did you watch that? Yeah. Oh, yeah, you did. Okay.
Yeah. The first half hour of it, I'm like, what the hell? After that, I was like, okay, now this is awesome. This is what I thought it was going to be. With this film, it's the other way around. I enjoyed most of it, and then we get to the end, and I'm like, F you, movie. You know, what did you think?
I liked it, but they had a lot of plot holes that just went, oh, we're going to mention this. Okay, we're going to drop it. We're going to bring it up again. Like I said, it was like Tommy Wiseau and his breast cancer.
Could you please explain that for those of the people out there that don't get it?
It's a thing from the room. If you don't know what it is, see The Disaster Artist. Anyway, there's it's good. The acting is fine. The animation is terrific. But in the end just left me flat. I'm like, this really sucked. The ending really sucked.
Yeah.
So
it did. It was completely like, you can't end this movie here. It's so sloppy. It's so lazy. Please don't end this. Oh, man. I was really, really disappointed with the end. Because up till that point, I was really high on it. I give it a B-.
Me too. I was really not happy with the ending and all the little plot holes. As far as the story goes, I thought Bruce Greenwood was sounding an awful lot like Adam West in places, too. Wow. I didn't even recognize his voice. Normally, I recognize Bruce Greenwood when he does Batman, but it's like it's not.
He's voiced Batman in Under the Red Hood, a couple of other places, I think. I thought it was great, but that, you know.
Yeah, well, I didn't say it was bad. I just said he sounded like, not that he was doing it like Adam West, but the timbre and the style was the same in places, and that worked for the character because that's the way the character is perceived. Batman Gotham by Gaslight is available on DVD all over, and you can also catch it on most on-demand systems around the country. Had one other thing we were going to do, but we're going to save it for next week because I just thought we'd save it because we had all these great reviews and stuff. So the moral of this week's story: go see Black Panther, go see Black Panther, and go see Black Panther.
Yep. And then go see it again.
And again. Next week on our Festival of Film Festivals, we'll be talking about Palm Springs. And we'll start gearing up for award season as we will, by the end of today, the BAFTAs will be up. The awards are going on as we're recording. And there will be a lot of other things over the next week. And we hope you continue to watch our website, eCinemaOne.com, as we are getting ready to do a few things over there, and of course that's where all of our shows are available. I will have we have this show. We have Front Row 5 and 10 on Thursdays. It's also at eCinemaOne.com, as are our two mini shows: 3 Minute Weekend on Friday with all the new film releases, and Tuesday Digidex on Tuesday with the new home video releases. Check those out. Kim's show, Platinum Rose's Garden, is at PlatinumRosesGarden.com, and she's off for the next couple of weeks with new episodes because the show is off. But you're going to be you can go back and listen to all of her older shows and all the current stuff out there. You can also listen to Catastrophe Vortex, my disaster movie show. I'll have a new episode up later this week. That's at CatastropheVortex.com. Don't forget to check out Cavebabble with Eric and Valerie Lyon, all from the Missouri perspective about movies, games, TV, food, and other things at Cavebabble.com. And Comic Grotto with Aunt B and Pee-wee, comics, TV, movies, and the men who love them at ComicGrotto.com. Don't forget, if you have like what you hear here, take the time to check out our first original production if you haven't already. It's called Manhattan Hammerdown As It Happened. It's at ManhattanHammerdown.com. And in order to continue to do projects like Manhattan Hammerdown and other stuff, coverage of film festivals and stuff, we depend on you, our listeners, and our readers. So please become a Patreon patron. It's super simple. Go to PNRNetworks.com. No, wrong. Go to Patreon.com/PNRNetworks and hook up with us. $2 a month will help us get a long way, but the donations can go higher, and our perks are better for the higher you go. Please take the time to donate. Patreon.com/PNRNetworks. Did I get everything in?
I think so, yeah.
All right, let's move it on and out of here. Subject Cinema, I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
May your popcorn always be buttered.
And may your roses always be in blue.
TTFN.
Bye now.
You have been listening to Subject Cinema with hosts T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema is produced by PNRNetworks, Boston, Massachusetts, which is solely responsible for its content. Subject Cinema theme performed by Eric Lyon. Subject Cinema is recorded and produced using Sony Vegas products. Subject Cinema is copyright 2017 by PNRNetworks under a Creative Commons license. Check out a new episode of Subject Cinema every weekend. Until next time, this is Bob Taylor for Subject Cinema, and we'll see you at the movies.
That's all.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.